we just sort of talk a bit about yourself, your background, what led you to write the book, and sort of go from there, really, and see what topics seem interesting. So, so who are you? Who are you, Lee?
Okay, well, I'm a member of Pan's People, who used to be on Top of the Pops every week. We danced, of course, and we were immensely popular in those days. And what led me to write the book was there were so many other things that had happened in my life that were really profound, and I wanted to pass on to others because some of them weren't very pleasant, and I got through these things and out the other side, and I wanted to pass that on in some way. So I felt to write a book was the best way to do it.
Amazing.
And Pan's People features in that, of course, but it is quite a small part of the book because there's so many other things. I mean, I went on from the Pan's People to be a lead dancer at the casino and sporting club in Monaco.
Oh, wow.
Which was amazing. And I had a ball. It was just a wonderful time. But there were things that were going on behind the scenes, like addiction. And I had, ultimately, when I got married and had children, I had them abducted by their father.
Oh, no.
To another country. And I had to fight. They were abducted to France. And I had to fight through the French courts to get them back. So, you know, I wanted to help people who had suffered the same sort of thing. There was, I don't like to mention this, but I think it's important that I do. There was a case where I was raped, and I managed to work myself through that and past it and beyond. And so all these other things are in the book.
So that's a lot of very serious topics and experiences.
Yeah.
What sort of time period are we talking when these sort of things were happening? When were you in Pan's People? When were you in Monaco?
Right, I was in Pan's People during the late 70s, beginning of the 80s, and so I was there for about 4 years, and I went on to live in Monaco after that, and again I was there for about 5 years.
Amazing.
Working there.
Did you train as a dancer prior to that? Was that something you'd spent a lot of time?
Yes, I trained from the age of 3.
Oh, wow.
I was in the Royal Ballet, but I preferred modern dance. That was more my thing. And so that's what led me to audition for Pan's People. And at the time they were huge, you know, and I didn't think for 1 minute I would get in. But I auditioned. There were about 2,000 applicants.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I know. It was just whittled down until there were 3 of us. And I got a phone call that night to say you've got the job, you know, and I was just over the moon. It was just immense, you know. And I met so many wonderful people. They were wonderful to work with. And it was a tremendous time of my life.
And was that what directly led to the work in Monaco as well? Was it through?
It was through, yes, it was. I again auditioned to do that. And at the time of the audition, I didn't know where the job was. They wouldn't tell us.
Oh, wow.
And so I auditioned. I knew it was something pretty big. But they didn't tell me until I got the job where it was that I would be performing.
Oh, wow.
And for whom.
What was the show like in Monaco? Was it sort of a big kind of floor show?
It was, yes, it was immense. And a lot of the work that I did, I danced with guys, we did a lot of pas de deux work, and it was incredible choreography. And, we did all the big galas. We did the F1 gala when they came to Monaco. We frequently had Princess Grace at the time, and Prince Renier used to come to the various galas. There were many famous people that also performed there, and I worked with. There was Sacha Distel, Theo Lane, Johnny Dankworth, Paul Anka, Shirley Bassey. So many wonderful, wonderful people.
Amazing.
And so that was just an incredible time in my life. But it led to more unhappy things, unfortunately, which again.
And sort of that sort of the sort of darker elements you mentioned before, was that very much sort of the behind the scenes environment there? Was that particular people who came in and made things less pleasant? How did that sink in?
Well, to touch on the addiction thing, I suffered with immense stage fright. And I was originally prescribed a drug by my GP called Ativan, which was stronger than Valium. And that did the trick. That sorted me out. I could go on, I could perform, but it also led to addiction. And that in turn led to being addicted to alcohol. And for some years, I was heavily dependent on alcohol and a combination of these drugs. And, it was like the more I took, it wasn't enough. I had to take more to get the same effect. So in the book, I explain all about that and the recovery process I had to go through to get over it and past it, through it, and on with my life without alcohol. And I mean, I haven't drunk alcohol for 42 years. I think that's pretty good going, really.
And how much do you think that was due to the sort of the environment? Obviously, I imagine a casino is where people go to play, to party. Is that very much part of the problem, I suppose?
Well, it wasn't so much that. It was what was going on in the background. Relationships were another very, very sort of an unpleasant part of my life in a way. I attracted abusive relationships, and that is what caused the sort of decline in my drinking experience. What I went through with these relationships, I had to find a way of coping. And that was my way of coping at that time. I then went on, when I had recovered from alcoholism and drug dependency. When I recovered from that, and started to live a healthy life. I did have a wonderful 35-year marriage
Oh.
to a wonderful man. So there's a lot of happiness in the book, but there's some sadness too. And I just wanted the book to help people know that whatever life throws at you, you know, there's nothing that we can't get through.
Amazing. And was there for you a particular moment or a particular point where you decided you needed to go into recovery, or was it a more gradual decision to make that change?
Well, it was a gradual decline in the drinking and what it was doing to me. And I hit what's called a rock bottom. And I realized that I was beat. You know, it had beaten me, both the alcohol and the pills. And I knew, I mean, I was just so desperate. I would have done anything to get well. And I had to get to that point in order to get recovery.
Of course. And in your recovery, what was sort of the key changes you made to sort of change the rest of your life, I suppose?
Yes. The thing that's important is that stopping drinking isn't the answer. You have to stop drinking and then change who you are. You know, you have to change your way of thinking, and it's the changes you make to yourself that grow your self-esteem, that your belief in yourself, the realization that you don't need to be inebriated in order to live life and have relationships. In fact, it's getting well and getting healthy and beating it and developing that self-esteem and belief in yourself that attracts the healthy relationships.
Of course.
And yeah, so it's a transformational thing that you have to work with on yourself to become what is called sober. And there's a big difference between being dry and being sober. And being sober is clean and happy and having a great life.
Great. And did you work with groups? Did you work with sort of counselors, or was a lot of this sort of self-directed recovery?
I went into treatment. When I hit my rock bottom, I went into a place called Cloud's House, which is a treatment center, and I began my recovery in there. And in total, I was in treatment for 9 weeks. And that during that treatment process, I came off all the drugs I was on, all the alcohol. It wasn't pleasant, I have to say. It was not pleasant, but it was the right thing. I was in an environment there where I had no choice. I mean, you just didn't get that medication. You got medication to help you through it, which was, immensely effective. But you also had to work with counselors, with groups, and talk about your life and what you think led you to drink and take drugs. And you end up doing your life story, which is so important. It is so important to go through everything in your life, your relationships, look at those, look at where you were at the time you had them, and realize that, you know, you can change those. You can change those type of relationships that you were attracting. You can change the experiences you were attracting. You can hold down a job, you know, without being fired for being sort of inebriated. And all these wonderful things can start happening to you. And the group therapy process is so important, and sharing all your inner beliefs and inner knowledge of your past life is essential to your recovery process. And I worked so hard on myself, so hard, because even though I'd done sort of, you know, in Pan's People, we were pretty famous at that time. I'd done pretty good stuff in my life. But I still had low self-esteem. And, you know, I needed to change, and I made those changes. And that's how I managed to create for myself a happy marriage, a different work environment. I went on to doing my childhood dream, which was working with horses.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, I mean, you know, horses. I always wanted to ride, but as a dancer, you're not allowed to. So, you know, it develops all the wrong muscles and everything. So, yeah, I got into horses in a big way, American quarter horses, and my husband and I ended up having a ranch in Texas.
Oh, wow.
No. And we bred American quarter horses and showed them. And oh, what a life that was. It was wonderful.
How long were you in Texas?
We were in Texas for 4 years. The reason we came back was for family reasons. You know, our children had started to have children, and we had grandchildren now. And we felt that we'd sort of done our time in the States with horses, and we brought it back to the UK with us, and carried on in the UK. But yeah, we wanted to have family around us, because would you believe, none of the kids wanted to come to Texas. We said, oh, why don't you come and spend some time on the ranch, you know, and you'll have a lovely time. And none of them wanted to do it, which I just couldn't believe at the time, you know. And it was very much, I did Western riding, which is like cowboys ride. And it's a much freer type of riding, and I loved it. And you wear Stetsons and you go around in your cowboy boots, and you know you're a real life cowgirl, you know, the whole time. And that was my childhood dream. I wanted to be a cowgirl.
Do you still ride now you're back in the UK?
I actually don't, because through this whole process of my change in my life and so on, I had to have a half leg amputation.
Oh, no. Okay.
Which for a dancer, you know, is pretty tough. And that was another thing in my book that I talk about, because dealing with, you know, having an amputation like that and sort of trying to, create a life with one leg. And okay, I have a prosthetic leg, but it still it was an immense challenge. I mean, immense. And I think there are two ways I could have gone. I could have either felt sorry for myself and depressed about it, and oh my God, this is terrible. Or I could say, right, this is the way it is. I've got to grab life by the horns and just live it and work through this. And that's what I chose to do.
Amazing.
Yeah, so I was just given a life or death choice. They said I had infection coming up my leg very rapidly. And they said, if you don't have it amputated, you're going to die. There's no antibiotics going to stop it. Nothing. It's gone too far. Either that or you have it amputated. So it didn't really give me a choice. I mean, what could I do? So I got through it and passed it and, worked on myself again and worked on, come on, you can do this, and I managed to create a life and move on from it and accept it. Accept it.
That can often be a very difficult part, that sort of acceptance, right? And choosing to move on with that. Do you think that sort of the treatment, the recovery you went through earlier made that process easier? Or was it just a completely different time of life, a completely different experience? Or do you feel those skills were useful?
Oh yes, you're absolutely right. There's the skills that I picked up when I was in recovery. I used those same tools when I had my leg amputated. And, the acceptance part of it is the main thing. You have to accept that this is not going to change. This is where you are now. And, it doesn't make me any less of a person. I'm still a whole person, even though I've got half my leg missing. It doesn't take away that at all. I'm a whole person. My body might be three quarters whole. So I can say to people, and I go into it in detail in the book, that again, you can get through it. You can build a life from it. You can meet lots of other people who've had similar problems. You can encourage them, and helping others helps you. And passing on that message to others who have had the same thing happen to them, and encouraging them and showing them your life, what you're doing in your life. It is so healing for yourself. And that applies to alcohol, drugs, the whole deal. It's about helping other people.
Amazing. And what made you decide to turn this into a book? Was there a particular moment where you thought, I'm going to sit down and tell my story in this form? Or is it something you'd wanted to do for a while?
I got to the point where I thought, hang on, I've been through these horrible things in my life for a reason. I believe everything happens for a reason. And I thought, if I keep this to myself, it's actually selfish. I felt by passing something on to those who want to read it or hear it, is, something that's I should do. It's selfish to keep that to myself and just live my life and die with it without passing that on. So I felt very strongly about that. And so I began to write it, and it took me in total about a year, which isn't that long really. And yeah, I once I started, it just flowed. I just didn't really stop. I just kept writing, and it ended up as a book. So and I hope that it reaches people who are looking to change their lives in some way. Are looking to build self-esteem, have been through similar things or are going through similar things. And I hope that the book is of value to people in that way.
Amazing. No, I hope so too. I mean, it sounds like a very interesting, a very important story to be able to tell. There's that positivity there, right? You just because you've had negative, bad experiences in the past doesn't mean you have to, forever be stuck within them. And I think that's a very important message to share and to remind people, right? That we can change. We can always find a better future.
Absolutely. The only people we can change is ourselves. We have no power to change other people. And I think I think some people try and change others to make themselves feel better, and it actually works the other way. It's us we need to change. We have no power to change other people. If they want to do whatever they're doing or stay stuck in whatever they're stuck in, that's their choice. But we can change us, and that's possible in everything. Whatever you're doing in your life, it can be as a result of you thinking differently about a situation. And when I used to dance, dancing was in my blood. I mean, my sister was a great dancer. She was in the London Festival Ballet. And I sort of followed it on. But I think that helped me insofar as it is very disciplined, and I kept that discipline throughout my life. And it helped me in recovery to have that discipline, and as I began to change, the people I attracted into my life changed. And experiences changed. I was no longer attracting the abuse. And that's a strong message that I hope I get across in the book, that the abuse by others to us is something that we stop by changing ourselves. And when you change you learn to say no. And learning to say no is so vital. It seems like a small step, but it's actually quite a difficult thing to do. And, you need to work on that. And saying no to the abuse, saying no to people treating you badly in any way is something that we have to learn to do if we're to have healthy relationships, for example, you know.
Mhm.
So there is a lot of issues that I cover in the book, you know, and a lot of sort of growth through those issues. And of course, the happy bits, which are nice to read. It's not all doom and gloom, not at all.
Mhm.
Some very happy moments, and my husband passed away,
Right.
and so I had to work through that.
Mhm.
So I now live alone. Um, I'm happy. I'm happy inside.
Mhm.
I'm happy with myself, and I have some great relationships in my life in terms of family, friends, and so I've worked through uh, my husband dying. You know, I won't say I've got over it because I never will.
Mhm.
It won't go away. But you know, in my head, I like to think he's still around and um, he's still with me. He was a truly wonderful man. And he was the one that I learnt, and I emphasize the word learnt, to love. Because prior to that, during the drinking and the drug taking and so on, I was incapable of loving anybody
Mhm.
because I didn't love myself. So he taught me, you know, what love was, and it was a magical time of my life. And we had, as I say, 35 years, and we barely had a crossword, um, which is something.
But that's amazing, and I think that sort of speaks to the importance, right, of getting to know yourself, right, to be able to, as you said, until you were able to love yourself, you couldn't love other people, and I think that's something that like a lot of people forget, right? They look for relationships to fix their problems, but it's never going to happen, right? If you're
Absolutely. Yeah, you have to fix you first, you know, um, and the relationships follow.
Mhm.
Um, w- we we create what we think about ourselves, and if you believe you're a good person, if you believe and you act on that, and you are in your life, and you do good things in your life, that's what you attract.
Mhm.
If you do unpleasant things, or you are resentful in any way, or you know, you've got issues that you haven't worked on, then you're going to attract a similar kind of individual,
Mhm.
who is going to reflect those beliefs
Mhm.
that you have. Um, and that's was very apparent in the early days. Every relationship that I had was in some way abusive. It was either verbal, physical, um, in some way. It was just so demeaning, and you know, made me feel um, a loser. You know, and so I learned through my recovery program, that's where the change happened, or began to happen. Um, that, you know, I as a person was okay. I was okay. I was a good person. And that's my starting point.
Mhm.
And I wanted to change my career, which I did. I wanted to change the way I thought about things, because I was a very, very angry person in some ways. And that's something I had to work through. Angry about my childhood. And of course, your childhood is responsible for an awful lot.
Mhm.
And that's where most of it stems from. The belief system that I inherited from them really was that not so much my father, but my mother used to use love as a punishment. So she would say, if you don't do this correctly, I won't love you anymore.
Oh wow.
Or if you stay out too long and don't do as you're told, I won't love you anymore.
Mhm.
And that was used over and over again. And it programmed in me that I was unlovable
Mhm.
unless I behaved myself. I did as I was told in life, And it was quite a sad thing to have to deal with. But that taught me that I wasn't a lovable human being, and I had to behave correctly in order to be loved. And the other message was, unless you are the best at something, yeah, I won't love you. For instance, when she used to take me to ballet classes, she used to say, right, you've got to be the best in the class. Otherwise, I won't love you. And so I had this message in my head the whole time. I had to be the best. I had to be the best. And that made me work so hard at everything I did, because if I didn't, I wouldn't be loved. I carried that right the way through. And so what the recovery process taught me, and the therapy and so on, loving myself. I was a lovable human being. As I was, I didn't have to be the best. I was okay as I was. And, I did the best I could. And that was good enough.
Mhm.
I didn't have to outperform everybody. I learned that in my recovery program as an adult, and that was very liberating, very liberating.
Mhm.
As I say, my father was adorable, and he loved us all to pieces. As did my mother in her way, but she just had this sort of thing that she had learned from her childhood.
Mhm.
To use love as a way of manipulating, and that's a pretty cruel thing to do to somebody.
Mhm.
So yeah, thankfully I don't have that anymore.
Amazing. Well, no, I think I think it sounds like a very positive story, very positive message to be taken from your book. I think we'll wrap this up here. It's covered a lot of topics, a lot of ideas here.
Yes,
Yeah.
you've gone on a bit. Sorry.
Oh no, absolutely. It's all super interesting, very fascinating. Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much for your time. this
That's
morning.
okay. It's
Amazing.
lovely to speak to you.
Absolutely.
Lovely to speak to you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much.
Amazing. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye bye now.